Hi everyone, my name is Tyler, and I make videos on how to live intentionally and be the best version of yourself that you can be. So if that sounds good to you, hit subscribe and let's go. Hi everyone, thanks for coming back to my channel. I hope you enjoyed my last video, and today I want to talk to you about why we are sometimes our biggest enemy when it comes to finding true happiness and living our best lives. And at the end of the video, I'll tell you why it's not our fault that we're doing it. We're often our biggest critic, and as a result, it's preventing us from finding true self-love and from moving forward in other aspects of our life. One of the biggest things I see is that a lot of people, myself included, struggle with confidence. And what happens is we wind up, because of our lack of confidence, putting off things that will ultimately make us happy. Let's take a vacation, for example. Maybe going on a vacation might make you really happy, but you don't because you don't think you look good in a bathing suit. And this looking good in a bathing suit thing, I've heard in the last week or so from many people. I actually had a coworker of mine who won't take her kids to a water park because she's ashamed of the way she looks. That's a perfect example of how there's something that could make her happy and something that could make her family happy, but she's not doing it because of a lack of confidence. Oftentimes, when we prevent the thing that will make us happy, it prevents the other stuff from falling into place. So maybe you're always avoiding vacations with your family, and as a result, you don't have that strong of a bond with them. And that isn't to say that you can't have bonds with your family without vacations. It's just that if you're constantly avoiding things with them because of self-doubt, then you're not really going to promote that relationship too well. Another thing might be dating. I know a lot of people who won't go out in the dating world and really stop themselves from even just going out in general, not even dating, just going out to a bar or a club or a movie even, and they won't go because they're ashamed of the way they look. And it's really upsetting. It's definitely a hindrance when it comes to finding happiness, because if you can't find happiness in the simple things life offers you because you're ashamed of something or because you're lacking confidence, then there's no way that you're going to be able to enjoy the larger things in life, because the little things are kind of what we put together to make like this one big whole self, right? It's the little tiny moments in your life. And if every day you're having a hard time just going in the shower because you don't feel good about yourself, then that day is already bad, right? Because you started it bad. So lack of confidence really can prevent us from doing anything. A lot of people have like the I will list, and I will go on a cruise when I lose weight. I will start going for a new job when I lose weight. And we'll talk more about getting a new job later, but there is a lot that rides on your appearance, in our heads anyway. There's a lot that rides on your confidence, and a lot that you might be putting off because you're waiting and waiting and waiting for when you feel perfect about yourself. That day might never come, and you might just be sitting here waiting, just constantly comparing yourself to someone else or letting someone put you down, or just putting yourself down and never flying, so to speak, and you're just going to stay on the ground and never reach your full potential. And I see it everywhere, and it's true. We're all just waiting to be better versions of ourselves before we try anything, and that kind of gets us stuck in a cycle. And I have a secret for you, if you're listening. You're perfect right now the way you are. And as long as you're open to growth, and as long as you're open to hearing new opinions and new mindsets and having good conversation and keeping your mind open to new ideas, you'll constantly grow, and you're constantly going to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And yes, we could all be better people. I don't know anyone that couldn't be a better person. We all have our flaws. But it's not about ignoring our flaws. It's about accepting the flaws. It's about trying to realize what are actual flaws and what are flaws that we were taught to be flaws, which we'll get into more later, and what flaws were taught to us to be flaws, and we'll get into that later, and just moving forward and keep going and just keep working on yourself and leave everyone else behind. And that's not to say that you want to just forget everyone that ever existed and just worry about yourself, because that would definitely be selfish. But like I said in, I think, the last video, you have to find that balance of who's going to come along with you and actively work on themselves with you and be better, and those who are just stagnant and refuse to open their brain to anything, and those are the people that you might not want to bring with you. Another thing that we might be doing that can result in us not being happy and not feeling whole is being afraid of change, right? And I've definitely gone through this, and I'm sure a lot of you have too. You know that you don't like your job. You know that you're not in a good relationship. You know that whatever the situation you're in now is bad for you, but you're so scared of what's to come once you leave that situation that you just stay there. And you're never going to be happy if you're staying in a situation that's inherently making you miserable. And I understand that sometimes it's not easy to leave these situations. And there's oftentimes, unfortunately, serious circumstances where people are stuck in a shitty situation. But if you do have the ability to do something about your miserable situation, then you should probably act on it. Make sure that what's stopping you is a legitimate, practical concern and not just fear of change. Fear is what's going to hold you back. Let's take a job, for instance. So let's say your job is making you miserable. I urge you to take a moment and reevaluate your self-worth. Reevaluate what you think you're worth, because chances are they don't feel the same way. And whatever you think you're worth is what you deserve. There's a whole bunch more that I can go into about staying stagnant and staying in one place, involving almost everything. And there'll be many more videos about like actively working on yourself. But oftentimes it starts with a job or a relationship. And if you recognize what you're worth and you recognize how much you don't deserve to be in that shitty situation, you will sometimes then get that oomph to leave that situation. So another thing I want to talk to you about, and something that we do as human beings that might prevent us from being happy and might prevent us from living intentionally and practicing self-love, is that we forget that we are inherently worth something, right? A lot of us get stuck in measuring our worth by the size of our house or the success of our job or how good our relationship is or all these other things. And the truth is, none of that really matters. It does, obviously, in like the grand scheme of things. But at the end of the day, you're a human being. You're a person who got up, and that's enough. That's enough. We're worth so much more than everything that society tells us determines worth. And once you recognize that, you can start to then work on all these little other things that could give you a more fulfilled life if they're what you desire. Okay, so I promised you that at the end of the video, I would explain to you why it's not our fault that we're feeling all these things and why it's not our fault that we're sometimes super stuck and lacking confidence and not able to practice self-love. And the reason why it's not our fault is because we're being told this. From a very young age, we're taught that we're only worth what we look like. And this happens from like before you could even speak or really understand anything. I hear people saying, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful," or "Oh my God, he's so handsome," when the baby's 6 months old. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but whatever. When you're being taught this from 6 months old, you're being taught that, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful," and that's all people are telling you, then you kind of get stuck in this idea of beauty being everything. And I don't blame you for it. I've been stuck in that idea my entire life. I was stuck in that. You have to look like the people around you. You have to act like the people around you. And it's very, very difficult to break that cycle. So when you're getting up in the morning and you're looking in the mirror and now you're upset because you don't have any confidence, it's not your fault. It's because you were taught that. You were taught that you're never going to be good enough. And the cycle can get really difficult to get out of. It can feel very powerful because you're taught from a very young age that your worth is determined by what you look like. Then you're taught that your worth is determined by what you have. And then you're taught that it's determined by what you look like and what you have and who loves you. And then you start feeling shitty about yourself because maybe you don't look like what people tell you to look like, and maybe you don't have what people tell you to have, and maybe you don't have love in your life. And then you get really down on yourself about all of these things, and then you know that you're supposed to do something about it. You know that there's things out there that can make you feel better, but you put them off until you meet these goals and objectives that society set forth for you. And it compounds upon each other, and it really creates this force that is so, so difficult to get out of. And I feel for us. I feel for all of us. I feel for me. I feel for every single person who is less than happy because of something someone told them. We aren't born feeling bad about our bodies. We aren't born feeling bad about our home or our worth or who loves us. We're taught those things. We're taught those things from a young age, yes, and that's why bullying exists, because these kids are taught this by their parents or families or TVs, or we could go into a whole conversation about where people learn it, but it's definitely not in their own heads. It's definitely something they're taught, so it's not our fault that we struggle with confidence. And that's why in my last video I talked about preventing external forces from affecting us, if we can do that, one by one, we will start to feel better. And if we start to feel better, then that will give us more momentum to actually change the concrete things in our life that we want to change, and how to discern what it is that we want to change and what it is that society tells us we should want to change. So what do I want you to take away from this? Well, I want you to take away some of the lessons that I've taken away and some of the things that I've learned on my journey. One, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait until you're thinner or taller or more wealthy or better off or whiter teeth or longer hair, or just don't wait for anything. If there's something that you want to do, just do it. And remember that if you are feeling shitty about it, if you're at a water park and you feel like shit, it's because you were taught that. You don't actually look bad. You look like someone who's taking their kids to a water park. And I'm not going to lie to you and say everyone else around you doesn't care, because they might, but what we have to figure out is how to not care what they think and care about ourselves. And I promise you that when you go home, after you're at this water park where people may or may not care, you will be happier because you got to spend time doing something you enjoy. And remember, I'm not just talking about water parks, I'm talking about so many things. Stop letting how you feel about your body and how you feel about your life prevent you from doing things that will make you happy, and you will inherently start to feel happier. And before we keep going with more videos of this nature, I just want to give a disclosure that there is no magic button. You can't just wake up tomorrow and say, I'm happy, because that's not what's going to happen. Happiness means that you're okay with what's bad, and that every day you're trying to fix a little bit of you because you want to. That's the key here, is that you're working on yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can be, but you're doing the things that you want to work on, not the things that people tell you to work on. And that's the big difference here, and that's what I found. I found that the minute I stopped changing things that people taught me to change and started focusing on the things that I wanted to change, I was lighter, I was happier, and everything I did was more intentional and had more of a purpose. So I'm sorry if this video is all over the place. There's a lot to unpack here, and like I said, I'm definitely down for some conversation in the comments. Next week, we're going to talk about how art and poetry helped me on my journey to finding happiness and how it helped me unlearn some of the toxic things that I was taught growing up by the people around me and the toxic things that I'm taught on a daily basis by the people in society. So if you can, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week when we talk about how to live intentionally and be the best version of yourself that you can be. So until then, I'll see you guys later.